SEO campaign looks like and how to plan for it, and then a little bit about websites as well, which is really based off Melroy's presentation that he put together also. So there's a quick agenda for us. We'll have a look at the current website setup and what that looks like for you. And then we're talking a little bit about topic creation and keyword research, looking at a content strategy, which is really important. We'll discuss a little bit about what an SEO audit looks like. And for anyone that doesn't know, SEO stands for search engine optimization. It's the organic part in Google. So if you're looking for Zara shoes online, anything under the paid search ads is what the search engine optimization space really focuses on. So it's to make sure your website is SEO friendly and that Google can find it and that your customers can find it as well. We'll also look at tracking some goals and defining those goals as a business, which is really important. And then we'll show you a little bit about that on-site optimization piece, which is tied in with SEO. And then we'll touch on local SEO and how that looks like, because that's a really important part, especially given, you know, COVID and people really turning to their local businesses. Okay, here is a slide that I always skip. So it's a bit about CMG. No one likes talking about themselves. So you guys can have a read of this, just a quick bio on who we are. We're a local business in Narre Warren, like Chris said, and we love working with businesses. So have a read of this when you get a chance to. Okay, we're launching right into it. So the first part is us looking at how we analyze your current website and a couple of points to consider as well. So I'm going to leave these questions on the screen, and obviously we'll have this presentation as well. But to start off with, what we wanted to talk about is understanding what CMS your website is on. CMS stands for Content Management System, and it's really understanding how your website is built and what that tool is. So I'm sure most of you have heard about WordPress. Shopify is a really big one. A lot of retailers use that. HubSpot's pretty huge. They're all different content management systems that help yourself, and if you do have someone helping you in the web team, pretty much go in and optimize the website, add your products in, or manage content. So why this is important to understand is because some of these CMSs can be outdated, or certain features that they use might be outdated, which does actually slow down your website, and then it also gives you limited design options. So if you know where you're starting from, it just means that you have a bit more to work with. And you can also understand, is your website user friendly? Is it content friendly? And does it allow you as a business owner to make those changes really quickly so that, you know, there's no impact on your business? And then the other part of the whole sort of website design is the design itself. So what is your website design like? What we look at here is, you know, how the website looks. And obviously, you know, we did an intro to this earlier with Chris. There's so many opinions on what looks good. I like something, Chris might hate it, Melroy might love it, but it's a very sort of, you know, a varied approach that people have. What we look at from a digital perspective is looking at that brand style, which HelloFresh did really well, that Chris showed you guys, and making sure that it's consistent across the website. So this sort of ties into brand design, and it looks at user experience, which is UX, and also customer experience. So how does your customer use your website to ultimately make a sale or get in touch with you? And then also the user experience part is really important. So how are users feeling when they navigate through to your website? What we always say is that you do want to find a really, really good balance between having a website that is digital or SEO friendly, and also making sure that it is user friendly. So, you know, you don't want it to be too SEO heavy, because you still want your customers to feel like they're working with a real business, but you don't want it to also be missing some of those key components. Okay, I'll flick to the next slide. I think I have an example, but we'll come back to it. So we do have a case study to look at. I'll walk you through, actually, I might just exit out of this and show you this. Can you guys still see my screen, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay, so I'll show you the example first, and then we'll come back to this slide as the case study. If you can see my tab. If you can see Rehab Melbourne, perfect.
Yep.
So Rehab Melbourne is one of our current clients, and we wanted to basically show you what a good website looks like. So if you have a look at the homepage, you'll find that this client has a really strong tagline. They've got some really good, I suppose, more so USPs, unique selling points, or problems that they're solving down here in those three circles. We've got a contact us section. We've got a really sort of clear service offering and menu offering there. And then you've got a little bit of content as well if you scroll down, which is here with some videos. So if I go back to the presentation, okay. The reason why we looked at this website, because we wanted to show you things like their WordPress CMS. You can't see this, but we know from looking at it in the background that they use WordPress as their content management system, and the client knows this as well. They've got a really good call to action, which is a call now button that pops up when you have a look at it. Plus they have the contact us menu bar. They've got great service offerings or unique selling points, which were those 3 points that we discussed. Brand consistency is there. So you'll see the use of that really nice sort of yellowy golden color with the white color as well. And then if you flick through to their website, that's consistent, including the logo as well, as you can see it there with that leaf. And what they do have as well is a really good meta title, which I'll touch on in a little bit. That's more so that SEO sort of friendly component. And then they've got really good keyword placements as well. So that tagline, while it needs to be strong and engaging, it also has an SEO component to it that we really focus on. Okay, so what we're moving on to now is looking at that topic creation and keyword research phase. This is really interesting. It's going to get probably a little bit heavy, but this is why we have people like us to help you with that. But some of the things to think about here is how to choose the right keywords, because this is really, really important. So what this means is that we want to make sure that you as a business get your message across to the right audience or your target market. And the secret to keyword research is really understanding the topics or your key products or service offerings, is how we like to explain it. If you have a look at Google, it's always improving its search engine. And what they do is they actually rank your website based on topics and themes rather than keywords nowadays. So Google is always crawling a website, and if there's a consistent topic that you talk about, the little algorithm that it uses, it can actually pick up on that, and that's what it will start to remember your website by. So once you understand your key products or services or offerings, then you can create keyword clusters to really optimize your site from those topics, and also to, you know, sort of market the business as well on social media and anywhere else that you focus on. So the keyword component is really key. How do you do this and how do you research these topics if you don't know where to start from? There's heaps of online tools that you can use, and we'll show you an example of one now. You can look at things like search volume on topic keywords, so that will actually tell you how many people have searched for a particular keyword or product or service, which also tells you how competitive that space is. And you can also use Google Trends and Google Search Console, which are both free options. You also have SEMrush, Moz, and Rank Tracker, just some really cool tools online. I think they have a free sort of section, but the paid version is better. If you don't want to go down that path, definitely use Google Trends. It's an amazing tool. It will tell you what's trending region-wise, and it gives you lots of great insights as well. We use that on a daily basis, even though we're in the industry. So I'll show you an example of what we talk about here. When we're looking at topic research, we go back to Rehab Melbourne that we showed you, our client. So one key topic or area that they focus on is alcohol counselling. And then what we've done is built out keywords focused around that particular service offering. So we've used some of these tools and our technical team to build out the best keywords to target, so that when someone types in private alcohol counselling online, our goal is to get Rehab Melbourne to rank on page 1 of Google. In these other 2 columns, this is where we get a little bit techy, but this basically tells us how much search volume there is. And this data is taken over a 12-month sort of average score. So it just picks up information and people, how people search for certain products or services over a yearly period. So sometimes this isn't always as accurate because, for example, I would say that the alcohol space has had a huge boom after COVID, since we're all at home and lots of people have been drinking and buying alcohol that we know of. So this is definitely going to be a little bit outdated, but it does give you a good overview of where you sort of sit and how you need to structure that content based on, you know, what's trending in market. If you have a look at the second keyword, which is drugs and alcohol counselling, so this search volume is a lot higher, and it's actually a really strong number because we're looking at drugs and alcohol. So huge market to target, really. There's obviously a lot of interest around drugs. There's a lot of help that people are looking for, whether it's for their loved ones or themselves. And, you know, it's a really sort of widely spoken about topic. So this is where we know that this space is really competitive. This also tells us that this particular area is something we really need to focus on for our client. If it's their key offering, then we need to make sure that the content is really strong and that it's also easy to understand, so that Google can actually see that Rehab Melbourne offer some sort of a drug and alcohol counselling session. Competition says it's low, which could mean that, you know, not a lot of people have these two areas that they service. But I think from a user perspective, if you look at search volume, it is quite high. So this is basically how we tackle, you know, this sort of topic creation and keywords. And what we look at for our clients is what are their key products or services, which really becomes your topic. And then we build out the keywords based on your competition, what's trending in market, but we also need to make sure that it aligns with what you offer as well. And then we look at different variations, so that if someone types in alcohol health centre or private alcohol counselling, that you ultimately start to rank on page 1. And then we get we just cast a wider net as well in terms of your target market. Okay.
Sorry,
so,
Tanya, just before you move on, can you go back to that slide for a moment? I just find it interesting, the second last one there, where counselling for alcohol addiction near me, you've got that at average search volume 0. Would that be typical? Like when people are searching for services, will they search for near me as an option? Would you normally find that higher, or is that specific to this piece? Yeah, that
would be higher. I think it's gotten a lot higher since COVID as well, because we do have that local focus. A lot of people are saying dentists near me, you know, shoe repairers near me. However, for this particular search, because it is quite a long tail search, so if you have a look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 keywords. The phrase itself is pretty long term. That's what we call it. I don't think there's a lot of search volume because it's very specific. Whereas if you typed in alcohol treatment near me, you'd probably get more search volume.
Okay.
Yeah. This is when there's 0 search volume, we still would include this keyword, which we are for this client, because it's a great keyword to use from a content or blog perspective. And it also means we can build out some really compelling content. And then what happens is, to add more flavor to this, when you have a longer tail phrase, you do actually add more value to single keywords such as alcohol. Because you've got alcohol in this entire phrase, if we're building different variations or, you know, working on different variations of keywords, we're actually helping alcohol counselling and alcohol rank a lot better. We're helping the business rank for that key topic a lot better. So it's all sort of intertwined, which is really good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. A lot of our clients will say, this has no search volume, forget it, we're not targeting this keyword, don't worry about optimizing our website for it. But what we find is that with these longer tail keywords and phrases, we can build out that, you know, that sort of compelling content, but it also helps with users that are very specific. So if their intent is counselling for alcohol addiction near me, it means that that particular user who typed that in is really ready to take action right now. Whereas someone who types in alcohol counselling could still be, you know, at that informational stage where they're searching for different competitors and assessing their options. So we always want to balance out, you know, our sort of shorter term goals and then longer term goals to make sure that we're targeting people at different stages of that sales funnel. Cool. Chris, did we have a question in the chat? I think I saw a little pop up. Someone wrote something from memory.
I don't think so, not yet.
No?
But
Cool.
timely reminder that if anyone does have questions, to type it into the chat, and we'll visit those as we go along. So just closing that bit out, I mean, would you think for, say, services, for example, like dentist or mechanic, or so the near me piece, we'd expect that to be higher, yeah?
Absolutely. Service-based clients, this is where we focus on local SEO and that, you know, sort of sense of urgency, because really that's what it's about. Service-based clients generally need or have a more sort of an urgent piece. So, you know, dentists near me, plumbers near me, very much the trade space. That's where the near me focus is strong and very relevant. Yeah. Fantastic. All right. So the next thing we look at, so after we've sort of spoken about keywords and topics and what we want to rank your business for, what your business is about, we need to establish a pillar content strategy. It's not as scary as it sounds. It's actually really interesting. So what does this mean? It means that with content, this is actually a phrase in the industry that everyone says, content is really king in Google's eyes. So with the latest update that rolled out this year, Google loves great websites that have informative content, engaging content, it's user-friendly, and it actually answers that problem that I mentioned earlier. That's the biggest thing that Google looks at, because a legitimate business will answer any problems or work on solving a problem for their end user. So this is where, you know, we focus quite heavily on how we put together your content strategy. And one of the things we look at is creating content pillars. So what these content pillars do is basically they help you navigate through your relevant content that Google looks at as well to rank your website. So once you have confirmed your topic clusters that we spoke about earlier, then it's time to create content on your website, such as blogs. We might build out new web pages as well. So that is a good example, because let's say you had a plumbing business and you had emergency plumbing services that you offered and just day-to-day plumbing services. Ideally, you'd want to have one page for each of your products or services that you offer, so that you can really tell the story of how you will help your end user. It also means that we can go in and split out some of those keywords we looked at to target each of those pages. So when Google starts to crawl your website, it goes, great, Tanya's Plumbing has emergency plumbing services and day-to-day fixes that they do, and I can find this information on how they do it on this page and this page really easily. And that's really what it's about. It's about making sure that if someone looks for your products or services and they type it in on Google, you rank for that keyword, and then we take your sort of customers straight to that page that has all of the relevant information. And that's where that content piece is hugely important. What we also want to do is make sure that, you know, the content that you put out on social media is really strong as well and relevant. It will be different because obviously social media has a different setup, but it's also a place where content is really sort of key. And then the second part talks about how you sort of structure content. So really the secret rule here is understanding that content has to have purpose. So it has to be really engaging with your end user, which is where you have to know your customer really well, but it also needs to have a bit of an SEO touch to it. So it's kind of like taking your car to the mechanic. You want it to look good on the outside, but it needs to actually run properly on the inside, and it can't be broken, otherwise you're screwed. So we like to have some sort of I suppose like a metric around how we write content, which is also industry standard or best practice. We recommend that, you know, that we sort of have 10% of your keywords that you're focusing on, or your key products or services, mentioned throughout your content against every sort of 300 words. So really what we want to make sure is that the content, again, is really organic for your customers and that we help solve their problems, but we also want to make sure that we get in front of Google when it starts to crawl your website, because if we're not understanding what you're trying to rank for, then Google won't be able to find you, which means your end user can't actually get to you. So again, with content being, you know, user-friendly and SEO-friendly, again, it's that really fine line between making sure that your user experience is, you know, is sort of in the back of your mind, but that you also have an SEO component to it. Okay, I think I might just exit out of this. I feel like I had a content page to show you guys, which was this particular page. So if everyone can see the facility page for Rehab Melbourne. So this is their inner page. And what you can see here is that it's very specific to what we're trying to talk about. So we're actually highlighting that they're a luxury recovery and rehabilitation facility, and then what that facility entails. So while we have mentioned the word luxury and facility and rehabilitation a number of times, it also needs to make sure that it's really sort of, that it flows really smoothly and that it reads really well. But if I read this and I'm looking to send my son to a rehab clinic, I want to make sure that, you know, I feel like it's a safe option and that they give me the information that I need. So that's just to show you an example of how we structure it. If this content wasn't SEO friendly, then you wouldn't have some of these key areas that are sort of optimized. So you wouldn't see luxury recovery mentioned here at the top, right at the beginning of that sort of sentence. And then you wouldn't see it here as well in this sort of first title where we say luxury recovery and rehab facility for treatment of addiction in Melbourne. So it's quite purposeful, but again, the key here is to make sure it reads really well for me as a user.
So Tanya, is that a unique URL for each of those options as well?
Absolutely. So if you have a look here, this is also one really great feature of WordPress as the content management system. And this is why it's important to understand what your website is built on. WordPress has a very clean URL structure, which also makes it very easy for Google to crawl your URL. So Google has these little robots that crawl your website, and then when it gets to this web page or any page, it wants to know what you're telling your end user. If it's a long URL and it's really complicated and it's got numbers in it, Google will go, I don't know what this person does. I'm going to move on to the next website. And that could be a competitor. So if you make it really simple, like WordPress does, it's really easy to tell Google, hey, this is my facility page. So I have a facility. This is my Meet the Team page. So I do have, staff that can help. These are the activity programs I offer, and it's very, very easy to find it here in the URL. We also optimize that, and that's something that we can dig into a little bit further, but we will, review this for all of our clients. And if the URL structure isn't great, we want to simplify that, and that's where that CMS piece comes in. So some outdated CMSs will have some really tricky URL structures, and that's what we want to avoid, because we really want to make it as easy as possible for Google to find your business online.
Just while you're on that page too, Tanya, what does Google think of video? So we've got the video there. How does it see video in an SEO piece? There's always that question, do I embed it on the website? Do I just put a link? Like, what does that matter for SEO? Does it matter at all? Absolutely.
What the trick is with video is that you want to keep it nice and short. So your videos shouldn't be longer than 3 minutes, because people lose interest really quickly. And also, if you have a really long video, it actually slows down the speed of your site, and it takes a while to load. So if someone's looking at this page off their mobile, you don't want a 10-minute video, and I guarantee you no one's going to watch the entire video. So hence why TikTok, as a side reference, has these quick videos that are so good, because that's pretty much all we can focus on. The other great thing about videos is it actually improves things like how long people spend on your website or your particular page. So when you look at metrics about your website performance, it actually improves the average time that users spend on your website, because they're looking at something and it's engaging. And if you have a really good average time spent on site, from Google's perspective, it says that I really enjoyed what I saw and I found it relevant and I was engaged, and you're a pretty good business for me, because this is exactly what I was looking for. So it's definitely a really big win. It's just about placing it, in the right area. So for, Rehab, we placed it right at the top because it also plugs their business. And then we gave it a nice description right underneath, because the other thing with video is that you need to give it content. Otherwise, Google doesn't really read videos very easily. It knows that there is a video there, but then it needs some content so that Google can actually see what it's about.
And Jenny's just asked a question, is that no more than 3 minutes per page or website as a guideline? Yeah.
It's per page. And what we would do is probably look at, what sort of industry you're in, and then find the best pages to place your videos on. So depending on the content and what you do, sometimes it might be good to have a video on the home page and then videos on inner pages as well. And if that is the case, we really want to make sure they're really, really short, but snappy, and that they are really relevant. So I think I'll go back to the home page for Rehab. They do have 2 small videos that we added, which are these. Oh, sorry, it's an image of their facility and a video from their CEO. And what we have seen is that the average time people spend on their website has improved. And what we also find is that people bounce off the homepage left with some of these additional features like images and relevant video. So people go, you know what? I will read from the CEO, but I'll also see what it's all about.
And I'm going to ask this question because I've always hired people cleverer than me to do this stuff. So I'm conversant, but not entirely sure. But say with a video, for example, if you've posted it on YouTube, you've given it a name of some sort on YouTube. So it might be like that Rehab Melbourne piece. When you put that in the website, you can add, is it meta tags, or you can add like detail, which also helps with SEO. Is that right?
Absolutely. Any images that you add or videos, you should give them an alt tag, is what it's called for in our SEO nerdy world. So it's basically telling Google, because it can't read images or video, this is what this video is about, this is what this image is about. So we definitely use keywords when we optimize the website to make sure that, again, we tell Google, hey, this is for Rehab Melbourne.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really, really important. And those little 1%ers actually make a huge difference. So what we saw with a bigger brands, probably maybe 2 to 3 years ago, is that they went back and they re-optimized all of their images and gave them alt tags, because that made a huge difference in how Google ranks them. It also means that if you look at the images tab in Google, if you're searching for something, if all of your images are optimized, you do have the opportunity for those images to start popping up in those search results. Nice. And it's linked to your website. So really important.
Just a side note for the guys online who are interested in having a chat afterwards, one of the big things a lot of people have been talking about is how can I take blogs, find out the right content, turn that into video, get that video posted quickly, and then just those pieces to be able to really feed content constantly. And I'm happy to share some of the links there that make it really easy to do that. Obviously, when you're starting to get to a very intense campaign, that's where again it's best to have it very structured and talk to professionals. But if you're wanting to just start to develop content to get that through, the reason why I say that is the worst thing you can do is actually put links to other people's videos, even if you think it's relevant to your industry. Don't put a link to somebody else's video. One, if they get rid of the video, you've got a dead link there and you've got no control of that. Two, you're actually feeding their traffic as opposed to yours. And three, it doesn't give you the opportunity to be able to tell brands. So whereas sometimes there's easy shortcuts that you can kind of do to almost cheat the system, Google's smarter than the rest of us in the way that it works that stuff out. So yeah, it's dangerous to not do that. Whereas, if you're not comfortable getting on camera, talking, filming testimonials, getting out there with the phone, making that happen, you can do that on a desktop with some basic, sort of software, but definitely look at generating your own content as opposed to using others. Yeah.
Absolutely. And another side note as well, user-generated content is huge in 2021. It's what you'll hear a lot of people talk about, especially from a social media perspective. So what we're seeing is that basically anyone that uses user-generated content has better click-through rates, better conversions, better engagement, and huge brand loyalty as well. So that ties into SEO because it tells Google that you are a legitimate business and that you're investing time in making sure that your name is really strong and that your clients or customers know that you're a real business. You're not just sort of someone that, went up overnight.
And just quickly, sorry, just before you move on, just to close out that video piece, Jenny's also asked a question about what about linking to a video on your YouTube channel? So I think as opposed to embedding it, just putting a link there, does that have the same effectiveness or?
So probably not. I would say if you have a look here, this is the video on the homepage, but it also links to Ed's, who is the owner, YouTube channel. So you can watch it here. You can also go and watch it on YouTube. If you just had the link, you lose that visual component. And if someone clicks on that link without this video here, then you actually lose that customer. So they'll go to YouTube and they probably won't come back. And that's what we don't want to happen. We want people to stay on your website so they can understand what your business is about. And you really want to drive that message, on your own website and domain. You don't want them bouncing off because no one ever comes back.
Yeah, you don't want to risk losing them to the dark corner of the internet with all the cat videos.
Absolutely.
And just one final one, because these are questions I get asked, and I'm just thinking them as I go along. Sure. Say with when we talk about social and then link backs to page, so not quite SEO, but sort of leading traffic into your page. So we were leveraging something like TikTok, let's say a company that was doing beard oils. And they had a really good following on TikTok and, kind of getting an audience there. And then they're going into like that little profile or bio piece and it's leading people back to a page. Should you keep that dynamic as in which pages they're going to, or should it always be the same page? Does that matter as far as, again, Google goes, with backlinks and all that sort of funky stuff that happens? Is there any advantage to changing the link regularly, or is it best just to keep it as one that all traffic goes to?
So we would recommend that the traffic goes to relevant pages. If you're promoting, so for example, I've seen a couple of them as well. You'll find that businesses will generally send the traffic through to a contact us page, a form, or their main sort of conversion setup, section on the website. So if they want you to call them, then it'll go through to the contact us page. If it's a product that they're promoting, they'll send that particular video to a product page off TikTok so that it's really relevant. If you send everything to the homepage, depending on what the message is or the video is on TikTok, then you do risk losing that engagement, because let's say, so I've seen one for so an exfoliating glove that's going crazy on TikTok. If you get, if I watch that, I go, okay, great, I'm going to buy this exfoliating glove. I want to go to that product page that has the information about how much it costs, add to cart, afterpay, all that sort of jazz. I don't want to go to the homepage where they're telling me about it because I've already been sold on the product. So it's really about understanding where that customer is in that, sales journey, and then making sure that you send them straight to the most relevant product or service page.
Got it. And what do you think about Linktree and, some of those where you can kind of set up a free account with a whole bunch of links in there? Do they mess with SEO, or is it much the same? Yeah.
Yeah, look, we're not huge fans on that because it is a very short-term solution. I think it's very much a sort of set and forget one-off product or offering. So we're not huge fans of it, but it does add a little bit of value, I suppose, in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
No problem. All right, good question. I'll go back to our slide. Just click present. Okay, so that was what we spoke about earlier, really looking at content, making sure it's SEO friendly, and then having those keywords in there as well. So if you had a look at that particular facility page and Rehab's website, we understood that their main purpose of this SEO strategy when they came to us was that they wanted to be seen as a luxury rehab clinic, not an addiction and drug alcohol center. While that's what they do, they actually wanted the brand to stand for luxury rehab. It's a rehabilitation clinic. They've got experts that help you and your loved ones. And that's why when we chose the keywords, we chose specifically luxury rehab, and I think luxury rehab clinic is the other keyword. And when we understood that particular intent, that's how we use those topics and the keywords to make sure that they're integrated into that content. But then we also read it from a consumer perspective to make sure it's very organic. And this is where that split really sort of is important, because if it's too SEO friendly, it literally sounds like someone who is 5 years old wrote it and no one wants to read that. But also it sort of devalues your brand, and it means people will bounce off and go and visit someone else, which is what we don't want. Okay, so case study that we looked at was the content for Rehab Melbourne. What we wanted to do was summarize some of the key areas, and this is again getting really sort of SEO nerdy, but it's very cool. So when we look at content, we look at content all over the website. We spoke to you earlier about the content on the actual page, but behind the scenes, from an SEO perspective, content is also hugely important in areas like the meta title. So I might run through this and then I'll show you on the website where to find it. The title tag is really the name of the page that we're looking at. So it's the first thing in the tab that Google will actually see and crawl when it visits your website. So we included leading rehab for Rehab Melbourne in their meta title tag, so that as soon as Google reads it, it says, okay, these guys are in Victoria, they're leading rehab for a clinic, and this is what they try and solve. These are the problems that they try and solve. We then also put a description in, and this meta description actually comes up on Google. So I might exit and show you what I mean. If we type in luxury rehab, if you scroll down, that's our client Hills and Ranges Private. So they've got a nice local optimization. If you have a look at their listing, so they are ranking on page one. And so they should be. But what you'll find is that this is the title tag that Google really looks at, that we were showing you earlier. And then this section underneath here is the meta description. So this is where, again, that keyword placement is hugely important based off your keywords, but also it needs to be engaging, because when someone reads this, they want to think, this is exactly what I'm looking for. I'm going to click on this website. So this is where you'll also see, if you take note, any particular keyword which is pulled from the topic mentioned on your website is actually bolded by Google. So Google's gone and said, this website mentions rehab and luxury from my search. So does this website, so does this website, and so does this particular website. So again, it really highlights to the user, hey, if you're looking for a luxury rehab place, these are the businesses that offer that. So if you don't have these keywords mentioned organically, then you miss out on this particular exposure. And really, this is sort of one huge part of SEO. But what we don't want is to just stuff keywords in these descriptions, because people will read it and go, oh, this looks really shady, it's dodgy, I don't know who these guys are, it doesn't sound professional, so I won't click on it, and it doesn't solve my key problems. So this is where we, want to find that balance. And what we generally find is if people do SEO themselves, they either go really, really hard on the SEO component and forget about their users, or they don't really understand the balance between that SEO element, and then they get left, in the dark against their competitors. I'll go back to my presentation. Hopefully that made a bit of sense. And then what we also have is other areas that content is really important with that keyword focus. So we do have things like the very first heading on a page, which is called a H1. And this is again where Google goes, okay, tell me what this page is going to talk about in terms of content. And then you have a second heading that is sort of like a subheading. Again, Google goes, okay, so this tells me a bit more about what problem they're trying to solve or what they do. And then for Rehab Melbourne, you'll see those 3 circles on the homepage and throughout their website. They're really strong, unique selling points that are consistent and really drive that message about what they are all about. So they're really about helping your loved ones, helping you find help, and then help for professionals and CEOs. That's sort of their other target market. So again, a really strong example of where content is important and how it's sort of, it's really key and it's prominent in lots of different places. Okay, so performing an SEO audit, very exciting. Why you need it? Because a strong website performance will actually help you rank, like we sort of touched on earlier. So, some things to consider for you guys is, have you run an SEO audit on your website? And if you have, what did you take from it? So what you can easily do is check your website's performance through Google itself. They've got amazing tools, and, they've got other SEO tools online that are really cool as well. The biggest thing that we find that Google looks at now more than ever is things like your site speed. So how quickly does your site load off mobiles and desktops? Do you have any errors or broken pages on your website? That's a huge no-no for Google. And then core web vitals, which is really that experience piece that Chris touched on when we looked at HelloFresh and the other websites. So helping Google tell your customers that your website is easy to understand, it loads really nicely, it gives the customer the right information, and it's easy to navigate through, and it's safe as well. So if you have all of these elements sorted, Google actually gives you a site performance number out of 100. And this is actually a good way to sort of understand how you sort of rank against your competitors, but also other websites online, and where you do have an opportunity to improve your site performance. So this sort of rating is really just one component. It doesn't mean that if you have a poor rating, you won't rank well. It just means that there's other elements to consider as well. So what we mean by this is we do have a lot of businesses who are obviously not like Coca-Cola and Facebook. So that score might not be as strong because the brand credibility isn't there. And Google knows that if you're a small business, you're obviously going to be missing lots of different areas that you will work on over time, but you can still have a really good result with a website performance score that improves over time. And that's what it's about. It's about sort of building and improving on how your website performs. And then we have the second part to consider as well, which is the best tool ever invented by Google, of course. It's called Google Analytics. It's free. It's a code that gets installed in the back end of your site. And that then tells you everything that people do when they land on your website. So there's a little example here of it, if you can see it, but it's really just like lots of great data about, how many people come to your website. It tracks your average time spent on the website. It has attribution models. So now it will tell you if you are selling products online, it will tell you how many orders you had, what people did when they purchased, who went to your homepage, then went to, your buy now page and then dropped off. So it really talks about that funnel and getting you to understand what it is that's working really well, and then even better if, what can you do better? So we look at this on a daily basis for our clients and our own website, because there's always things to improve on, and there's always new sort of elements that are coming out that we need to make sure that, we're on top of. So I've summarized here roughly what this means, but this is really understanding your digital marketing performance. And again, as a business, it tells you what other decisions you need to make. So it's sort of, giving you the chance to make that informed decision and not guessing what people are doing and what your customers are doing or not doing, but actually showing you the data behind it. And we know data is key because, without it, you wouldn't know where to begin with. Okay, I think this might be the last piece from memory. So this talks about defining and tracking your goals, which we're really big on. So what we sort of look at here is understanding as a business what you're trying to achieve. So before we start any of the stuff that we looked at earlier about topics and keywords and content, what we really want to make sure is that we know what goals you've set and that you have a benchmark. And if you don't have that, then that's something that we'll work on with you. Because if we don't have your key outcomes confirmed, then we really don't know how we can structure a strategy, and then we don't know if it's successful or not. So these goals can be so different. You know, we see clients that want to focus on those keywords, and you know, if they're starting out like Rehab Melbourne did, he said to us, guys, I really just want, you know, I want to build my brand. You know, I want to make sure that people find me. I'm after leads. I want to be different from everyone else. So I'm really looking for that sort of aggressive approach online, which is what we focused on. So before we changed the strategy with Rehab Melbourne, we had different keywords that we were targeting. He wanted to target people who wanted help right now. So our keywords were focused around get help now for, you know, alcohol and drugs and gambling addiction help. They were very, very different because we wanted to track the different market. And then once that was sort of a goal that we achieved in terms of clients that he was onboarding, we then moved the focus around, you know, having a luxury rehab clinic that now offers that more tailored approach. And then now we're sort of seeing a different type of a client coming through Rehab Melbourne's doors, which is exactly what he's after. Other things that, you know, you might set as a goal or an outcome could be that you have obviously more sales, but it could be brand identity as well. It could be brand loyalty. You know, you could be focusing on talking to your existing customer base and growing that retention piece, or it could just be that you want, you know, your business to actually have a stronger name online, because it might be doing well physically, but online, it's not something that, you know, your customers can find easily. And then the other part that we talk about with our clients is customer behavior. So we're really big on this again, because if you don't understand customer behavior, we can't understand who we're targeting and what problem we're trying to solve, and then how your customers are sort of engaging with us as well online, or with you online. So while keywords are really, really important, we need to make sure that the behavior of that traffic that we're sending to your site is the right traffic. So with more and more pages that rank on the first page of Google, again, it's really important to understand that, you know, what this traffic is actually doing. So we want to know if people are bouncing off your website, or are they actually making a purchase? Are they inquiring? Are they submitting an email at night? That is exactly what you're looking for, you know, when you sort of come into work the next day. So, you know, we always say that there's a two sort of prong approach with an SEO strategy. It's to make sure that we have the right keywords, and then that we understand what your customers are doing, and that we actually keep them on your website so that they can complete this end goal or outcome that you're looking to drive. Okay, we have a few more things, which is good. So this now gets super techie again, and it talks about basically that on-site optimization piece, which is related back to SEO. We'll touch on this briefly because it can get really techie, and we don't want to overwhelm you guys. But what we want to make sure is that every business we work with has a successful campaign. And the best thing is to do an audit of your website, and then understand, you know, if the website is missing some of those meta titles. So I'm going to exit and show you guys what I mean. So if you have a look at Rehab Melbourne, if I hover over their homepage tab, hopefully you can see that little bubble that's popped up. Perfect. So this is the homepage title tag for Rehab Melbourne. So as you can see, we have included their key areas that we're targeting at the very beginning of that title tag. So we've got Melbourne Rehab Clinic in there. We've got Private Drug Rehab Service Centre in there. And there is a limit. So there's actually a character count that Google gives out. And what we don't want to do is have extra keywords in there, because it gets cut off in the search results, which I'll show you now, and it doesn't look very clean, sorry, it looks messy. So if you have a look at here, this is Rehab Melbourne ranking on page 1, and this is their homepage title tag, which is that little section we spoke of earlier. So this is a huge part of SEO, and if Google can read this easily and understand what you do, it gives you the chance to stand out. Probably against someone like Luxury Rehab, this sort of is a directory, but if you see their title tag here in the search results, it's 20 best rehab centers. So it's giving you different options. not one particular business that specializes in rehab. And then you've got Rehab Melbourne, who's just one business that does exactly what I was looking for. Okay. The other part to this, start presenting again, is understanding, what accessibility issues the site has. So this is again getting super techy, but a few things to note is, when you do this SEO audit is understanding if your website has a sitemap or a robots file, which is just really a bit of an org chart, if you want to call it that, of your website to tell Google that this is the structure of it, this is what it does, this is how it sort of comes together. And then even making sure, I've skipped ahead, that you don't have any errors. And if you do, when you run that audit, it'll tell you which pages you need to fix so that your website is really healthy and clean and Google can easily access it. And again, we talk about SEO errors. So very important to fix things like your site speed, but also the images that Chris touched on. So if you've got lots of images, especially for e-commerce businesses, you've got lots of products that you're selling, make sure those images have a title tag attached to them or an alt tag, that they tell Google what it's about. And you really want to make sure that, it's easy and it's simple and it's clean. And then any other on-site issues that you haven't looked at, is something worthwhile considering, because if you don't have this sort of, base set up, then it's going to be tricky when you look at adding content to pages that aren't SEO friendly to begin with. Cool. Okay. We then look at implementing the audit. So after you've done this audit, it's really understanding, what you need to fix. One of the things that we look at is that on-site content piece. So when we're looking at content, it's really about understanding what your main service pages are, and if you have them, and if you don't, it's a great chance to build those out so that your customers can really see what you offer easily. And then again, this is where the content needs to be SEO friendly. So if I go back to rehab, we look at their different sort of tabs. What you'll find is that this is really their service offerings and how they've built out their content pillars. So we've got an Our Facility page that talks about the actual center. We've got an activity programs page. They want to highlight their services and treatment. And then they've also got a blog section, which is really important and looks great. That's what we sort of focus on when we talk about that content pillar stage. Go back. Okay. The other thing we look at is building up some internal links based off that content. So once you've, optimized your text on the website and you've understood what the main pages are, it's important to write things like blogs that actually link back to some of those products or services. And I'll show you an example again with rehab, which is great. I can move this. Oh, it's gone. Okay. So content can also be in the blog piece. And again, we really encourage this because you're adding lots of new information to your customers, both new and returning customers. But if you read a blog that we posted for rehab, this is a really relevant one in terms of their key areas. It's about educating their clients on, health. What we want is some sort of a link or a call to action to another page that's relevant. So at the end of this particular blog, there's a CTA here. It's call Rehab Melbourne, and the 1-800 number is clickable. So if you click on that off your mobile device, it actually pops up the phone number and you can call through, because this is what their end outcome is. They want someone to read this and go, crap, this is great. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to call Rehab Melbourne and I'm going to get them to help me. And I like what they're about. What you can also do as well, if you were writing a blog piece around, how to fix your burst pipe as a plumber, then during that content and in between it here, if this was your content piece, you could actually link a keyword back to a particular page. So if you wanted to tell people about your emergency plumbing fees, you could link that keyword from this blog to an emergency plumbing page. And if they clicked on it, it would go to, say, this page. And then I would be able to see, okay, so this is how this business can help me. This is what their pricing is. This is what their call out fee is. And it's making that sort of journey a lot easier for your end user. And that's really what it's about. So it's, again, understanding what your key outcomes are and what you're trying to drive as well in terms of that key sort of focus. We also take the opportunity with the blog page, by the way, to incorporate the keywords again, but we want the blog to be engaging. So it's another great way to update your website and to sneak in a few extra keywords. So if you read this, I'm sure there's a couple of places that we've mentioned, you know, alcohol and drug detox programs, but we've kept it very subtle, and we've also tried to make sure that it's, you know, it's limited in terms of how many times we mention it. The key goal for a blog is to give information and solutions, and then having obviously a smaller piece in terms of that end goal. Okay, I'll go back to the slide deck. Okay. Local SEO. So this is what we spoke about earlier as well that you saw in the search results. So local SEO is about being able to be found on Google and being when it comes to that Google My Business setup. So if you're a local business and you don't have a great Google My Business listing, you are missing out, because it's hugely important now more than ever. The key elements of these setups are that they need to have the right address of your business, and it needs to match exactly how it is on your website. And this actually is something that Google really look at. So anytime you talk about your business, especially from a location perspective, if you have your address listed in a certain way on your website, but it's a different format on your Google My Business listing, Google doesn't like it, and it won't actually link up that it's the same business. It will, but it's going to struggle. So, you know, if you're using things like Drive and you have DR on your website as your address, but you've written Drive out in a full sentence or word on your business listing, then that's probably not a good way to keep everything consistent. Whatever the address is on your homepage is how you want it mentioned anywhere else, especially here with the Google My Business listing. Cool things you can do with a Google My Business listing is optimize it and add images, a description of who you are, your opening hours, a profile photo. You can add staff photos. You can add your key products as well. So I will give you an example, but I'm sure you all know it. We go back to luxury rehab search. So here we go. Here's where the Google My Business listings come up. These are the ones listed here. So you can see you've got reviews now. Again, hugely important. You've got a little rating as well that Google gives you. You can click through to the website. You can ask Google to give you directions, or you can save that for later use. And then if you have a look here, what Google does very cleverly is it tells you that this business, even with the Google My Business listing, actually mentions luxury rehab. So myself as a user goes, okay, cool. This is exactly what I was looking for. The business is in Victoria. I can call them, and they mention exactly what I need. The other cool thing is, if I can go back, is that Google My Business listings now take priority over organic listings. So if you look at the setup on a Google search results page, you'll actually see the map listing come up, because it's also picked up my location off my laptop, and then it'll give you the Google My Business listings. So it's saying, here are all the local businesses that come up for your search, and then it goes into the organic part, which is what the SEO focuses on. Now, the other cool thing is, if you optimize your Google My Business listing and you have a great SEO strategy, you get double the real estate. So Rehab Melbourne gets a spot here. Well, they have triple real estate. They've got their facility page ranking on page 1, because Google's got, okay, this content's really strong, it's relevant, we'll rank that. Then they've got their homepage ranking, and they've got a Google My Business listing here, and it's the first one that pops up. So they're kind of really sort of overtaking that first page presence, and it gives them a great competitive edge. If they didn't have a Google My Business listing, if you see where it's located, they would miss out on a ton of new inquiries. And also from a brand awareness perspective, they'd have less of it. So although people say, oh, you know, Google My Business is annoying, it's not important, it's so important, and it works a treat. And what Google now does as well is it actually gives you insights and data from Google My Business. So if you log into that, you can actually see how many people called through from clicking here, how many people ask for directions, how many people click through to your website, which is, again, that website performance piece that allows you to make some really strong decisions about, you know, what the next step looks like. So if you, for example, see that everybody is asking for directions with your Google My Business listing, it could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. You know, you might not be easily found, or your address might be really tricky. So lots of people have to check to see how they get to you. So then you could use that and go, okay, cool, maybe with my social posts, I might talk about my location. I might do a little post on where I am, just so that if people do click on Facebook or Instagram, they can see that, okay, cool, this business is actually behind the main street on Berwick, for example. Cool. All right. A couple of other things with Google My Business. Do have Bing here as well, because Bing is another good search engine. Obviously not as popular as Google, but they have the same features. So if anything, you know, it's worthwhile optimizing on both platforms. It also adds that to that consistency piece. The other thing that's really important is when you've set up a Google My Business account, it's really, really crucial that you actually verify your listing. This means that you have full ownership over your listing. So it's yours, no one else can edit it unless you give them permission. But it also means that you hold a lot more authority in Google's eyes than having a business listing that isn't optimized. If it's not verified, Google thinks that you don't really care about your business, you haven't spent the time to log in and manage it, but it also looks unprofessional. A lot of clients will go, oh, if it's an unverified listing, they might not be a credible business, you know, maybe they're not around, maybe it's closed down. So the more information you can add to that listing, the better it's going to be. And Google looks at all of that as well. And then what we do as well is once we set up Google listings, we actually create additional business citations. So all that means is that we will list your business details in online directories like Yelp and Yellow Pages. And what these listings do is they promote your Google and Bing listings, and then it actually drives traffic to your website. So if someone is looking on Bing on Yelp, on Yelp or Yellow Pages, we're actually telling them that it's a local business and we want to add those details in that directory, and we also want to make sure that we can send more people to your website.
Oh, Tanya, just quickly before you go on. So just two things. A question get asked a lot. Home-based businesses. Obviously, you get the, I guess, the double down benefit of doing a, location piece like what you've got there. But if you're a home-based business, you don't necessarily want to be promoting your home as the address of where you're doing things. So do you kind of miss out on that benefit? Is there a way to manage that, or not really?
You do miss out a little bit, but what you can do is set up a PO box. That really helps as well. And that actually tells people that if you are a home-based business, which you can actually add as a category, I'm pretty sure when you set up your listing, you can actually say, you know, I'm a home-based business, or even for a lot of clients that are a mobile-based home business, this is where they struggle with. So what we say is set up a PO box so that you do have that professional storefront per se, and then you can really tell people, you know, through maybe some of the content, or if you do put some photos up with the listing, you can, I suppose, tell that story as well. But it gives you a slightly lesser advantage, but it doesn't mean that people won't call you. So it's just really about, you know, making most of all of the categories there that they have to fill out.
Cool. And Melrose, made the point, hide the location, but make sure you add a service radius. And John also asked the question, is Google My Business worth having if you're servicing clients from all over Australia?
Good question, actually. Well, what Google looks at is a physical storefront. So if you don't have an office, then it's going to be tricky, because Google doesn't want everyone to have a Google My Business listing. It's probably worthwhile not including it if you are servicing, you know, nationwide. If I've stuffed that up, I'm sure Melro can jump in. But yeah, we do see this. We had this thing with virtual offices, which people were doing to offset that. So lots of clients went and set up virtual offices, and then they got the listings verified that way. But Google got very clever yet again, caught onto the trend, and they don't like that. So, you know, if you don't have a physical location, or if you're not a home-based business with a PO box, don't have it.
I just noticed that Melroy's put his hand up, so I'm guessing you might have something to add there.
Go for it, Mel.
I was just going to say that, look, you know, you may have a physical location, or you may just purely be an e-commerce business, but definitely get a GMB set up, verify it through even your home address, hide the location, just purely because the GMB does have a provision now to actually have your products listed as well and linked as well.
Very
so
true.
You know, if the person doesn't really see a location, they can at least see what product you have and you're showcasing on your website, and then that obviously forms as a means of traffic to the site as well, just by clicking on that product, getting to the website directly. So different ways that the GMB can definitely be beneficial for your business. Yeah.
Well said.
Thank you.
All right. Amazing. I'll skip on to the next slide. So this is just reminding everyone of the digital checklist. That is a great starting point because we obviously covered off so much information, and again, we come from this space, so we get it. But for you guys, you know, who are starting out and learning about it, the digital checklist that Melroy covered off is really covering some of those essential areas and components to focus on. And that's where, you know, we sort of explored the whole go and grow online. It's making sure that you at least have the basics to work on, and then, you know, expanding from there. We can resend this as well. I'm sure Chris has it that he can send around, but we covered off a lot of this stuff in that checklist just to give you guys a bit of a, you know, benchmark. Okay, and then again, a little bit about CMG. Love talking about ourselves. Not what we do is, you know, from what we've spoken here, it's really about understanding how we can drive the right outcome. So, you know, we don't want to be focusing on keywords from the get-go, but they're a part of the strategy. For us, it's making sure that we understand what your goals are, and every business should be doing this anyway, and then, you know, working with you on a custom strategy that makes the most sense. Okay. My goodness, that's it. Yay. My details here. Feedback is a gift, so give us some feedback. I'm sorry, my eyes are starting to water. I'm not crying. They get really sore at this time of the night. But yeah, anything you need, you guys give us a call. We love talking about this stuff, and yeah, we're all about it. I think
Tanya,
that's it, Chris.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, give you a moment to get the tears out of the eyes.
That was beautiful.
So just for everyone online, I guess what we got there was literally a decade worth of knowledge that Tanya has got, and obviously living and breathing in the world of digital, compressed into this really sort of intense overview. And there is an amazing amount of information in there, and quite possibly a lot of it would still be, you know, I haven't quite grasped what that means. I think this is a good time just to stop, you know, take a big deep breath, and kind of recognise that it is worth it in terms of spending the time to work it out. You know, if you've ever read those stories about you know, somebody who launched a product online and sold thousands, and you think, how? You know, it's a nothing. You know, they've done this effectively. They've worked out how to hack the system. You know, if you've ever looked around at your competition and kind of thought, I don't get it. I don't know why people are going there over, you know, finding me. This is how. You know, this is the most available, accessible tool that you've got available to you to drive your business, and it's worth, you know, kind of just breaking that down into bite-sized chunks and working out the areas that you can have an impact directly on. So, and a reminder that is really what follow-up sessions are for. So, you know, off the back of this, we're happy to have a chat specifically, and if that conversation starts with I've got no idea where to start, we'll just slow it all down and kind of walk you through that pace of what it looks like. So. Yeah, Tanya, thank you. That was an incredible amount of info, and I know, yeah, I certainly know a lot more there than before. Just a reminder, and I've noticed a couple of questions up, so we'll ask those in a moment. But what I'm also going to remind everyone is, if there's something that you're thinking question-wise, guarantee somebody else is thinking the same thing. Type it in. You've got the experts here now to ask a question. So if there's anything at all question-wise, type it through. If you want to ask the question directly, feel free to put your hand up like Melroy did, which is just next to the chat box. It's a little hand. You can pop that up, and yeah, you can ask the question if you don't want to type it. But just while you guys are giving some thought and just a chance for a question to come in, this is a question without notice, Tanya, so feel free to say, I haven't thought about it, I'm not sure. But I guess I'm going to ask this on behalf of the startups. Really interesting, we ran a session at the start of the year that was talking about the defining decade, the next 10 years. And one of the things that we were looking at was that area of kind of search engine space and what's happening there. And I find it really interesting, you know, Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg's talking about the metaverse now. We're starting to see some videos there where, you know, you essentially goggles on, you know, talk, the virtual experience of walking through stores and, you know, shopping online, and all of that search capability is via voice. Obviously with Alexa and, you know, all these home devices, search via voice as well. You know, we're seeing a slight change there from the traditional, you know, on a screen typing in search around what I want. You know, what sort of impact do you think that's going to have, if any, on this space? Does it still come down to those fundamentals of understand your brand, your message, how people are going to find it, make sure you're attached to that? Or do we need to be thinking a little bit differently on that voice side?
I'd say, yeah, voice is absolutely what I was going to touch on. Huge. And we are seeing, you know, a bit of that rise in Australia. I think what will happen is that even with voice search, you will still need to have those key areas within your site, because the way that Google will find your business via that voice function is going to be from those key areas. So content, keywords, Google My Business is going to pick up all of that information and spit out the results. So what we might see is maybe less engagement on the website, so less people actually going on the site because they're not searching, but certainly a lot more in terms of, you know, that interactive piece. And how that's going to be tracked, not too sure what Google's going to do with that from a Google Analytics perspective, but I definitely think, you know, if Google wants to find that website in the abyss, how is it going to connect, you know, your website with the user search? It's probably going to look for content, keywords, you know, where are you located, which means it all goes back to some of those components we talked about. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so we had a couple of people share their website, which was great. We've got a little bit of time to just have a quick look at those. Maybe the best way to do it, just given timing wise, if I just call them up, we'll take it in turns and going first, because we're probably going to share similar ideas, even though your insight's going to be a lot better than my aesthetic assessment. Yeah, I might call a couple of those up now, and yeah, we'll just have a quick look. Some of them got sent through here, and also got a direct message on a few. So everyone intend to get the most. I'm just quickly reading the questions. John's also said, assume that there'll be a recording, which we can watch one more time. Absolutely. This is being recorded. All of this information will be sent to you guys tomorrow, with links and a whole bunch of stuff. And just checking, Tanya, are you happy for me to share this presentation with the guys? Yep, absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, so you'll also have a copy of this as well, along with links and a whole bunch of other stuff, and the feedback thing, which I'm going to harp on in a moment, because it's so important. Actually, just before we jump to the website, I may as well address that while we're here. A reminder that you know, we are so thankful to have thought leaders like Tanya and Melroy and these kind of people directly in our community volunteering their time for these kind of sessions. I know, you know, from the feedback I get anecdotally that the community gets so much value out of that. I love hosting these sessions at the end of the night, because it is the time when, for those doing the side hustle and the like, it's the only time to do it. But also recognise as well, this is all funded through a government program. So what's really important for me is that we get feedback, and for twofold. One, if you've been wrapped with the content and it's all been great, for you to just jump on with the link I send you, just to give us, you know, top stars all the way through and say really love the session, brilliant. I can go in there and ask for more money to fund these kind of things. Any feedback that you've got, or, you know, criticism or changes, we love to hear that. It allows us to be able to change the stuff we do so we can offer more value through. And then the third piece is there's a section there for sharing feedback on other stuff. So the kind of feedback I've got moving into the next session is like what social media platforms people want us to focus on. The Google Analytics piece that Tanya touched on, I think people want to understand that a bit more. So, you know, off that feedback, we know, you know, what we really need to focus on. So I'm going to send everyone a link on that, and I would really appreciate if you could just take 2 minutes to fill that out. It would certainly help on this end. So I'm just going to take control of the screen, Tanya, and see if I can share these sites. So the first one is actually one I got sent directly, not through the group chat, but this is a great little place down in High Street in Berwick. This is actually where we were going to have our Humble Hustle before that got cancelled the other month or a few weeks back. But yeah, just having a look through, I mean, this is obviously a new company. I was saying new company, new venue. It's been open now for about 3-4 months. Love the hero images that they've got there on the screen. It just, you get it straight away. It's a rooftop bar. They don't have to scream too much around it. Logo works well in terms of white on the background. The direct call to action, fantastic. You've got the book now piece. The only thing I did cheat and have a quick look just a second ago on drinks. As much as Tanya loves her shoes, I love my drinks. But going there on the drinks menu and just picking up on those points Tanya was saying, one, if you have a look at the URL there, it goes straight to a PDF, which is all very, kind of mixed up on that content piece. Such a missed opportunity. And I know this, having followed your Instagram, that your drinks are stunning. To show those cocktails and to actually have something a little bit more interactive there, as opposed to just a PDF page listing the drinks and the prices. It's just such a missed opportunity that I feel you could integrate in on the website. As far as the other ones go with functions and URL is as advertised. That's what it does. So you can make an inquiry, book a function straight in. Possibly color seems a little bit jointed the more you go down, but it looks like you've got the listing on Google My Business, and I know how to contact you. I can see hours, etc. Social links, which is great, always anchored to the top. It's just my general kind of feedback. Did you have any initial thoughts, Tanya, on the site?
This looks great. Lovely place, and it looks exactly like the actual bar. I have driven past it, so it's nice to see that consistency. They've got social icons at the top of there, which is really important. I think it would be great to have a phone number. A strong call to action along with the book now is going to really get people to be able to contact the business really easily, and we do want that. So that was the only thing I would add here, but it looks great. I love their logo, and see, this is Chris looking at it sort of off a mobile view. It looks fantastic. But again, if you look at it here, you go, oh, amazing. How do I call them? I'd be like, I want to make a booking, get some cocktails in with the girls. How do you call them apart from booking through the website?
Valid point. Nice. Okay. Next one I opened up was 7sautorepair.com.au. Maybe Tanya, do you want to sort of just open feedback, initial thoughts with the site being open? I'll scroll and click on some tabs if you like. Yeah.
Love it. This is a really nice website for the business industry. Generally, these sites aren't very trendy, so great to see you put some thought into this. You have got a good call to action. I think the website sort of outlines the different types of services that you offer, which is great. What I would love to see is maybe a little bit more on the homepage. So maybe a different font color and the style to make sure it's a little bit more modernized, and that we are talking to a wider audience, because females also love to suss out, where to get their car service. And if it doesn't look nice, sometimes they go, oh, I'll find someone else. So it's just making sure that everyone is considered. But, it's got a really nice sort of tab bar, which is great. And this is what we were talking about earlier. If you look at the different services, great way to list exactly what they do, which gives you that chance to, work on those content pillars, but also the keywords.
Looks like they got a blog as well.
Blog, amazing, great job.
No content there under maintenance, but that's all right.
All right, we can work on that.
Yeah, they got the step towards their contact us section. The only thing I would say, I don't know whether it's just me or I can't seem to close this window here, which is a little bit outside of accept all, which some people are reluctant on. But yeah, otherwise secure site, login, direct call to us.
Love it.
There's a button, yep, that goes out. So on the phone, that would actually go directly to my my number. Yeah, there's a lot to like about this. Yeah, I think I like all of these services have got their own unique URL, which I'm assuming would be optimized from that SEO piece. Yeah, with all the services, and they've got a backstory there as well with the Our Story, which makes it a little bit more personable. Yeah.
Perfect. Great local business.
A little bit cleanup and theme guide or style guide, I think, could really benefit on that. Just to carry over those consistent colors, text, and images. But yeah, cool. Okay, I might just start on this one and then get your thoughts. So this one's Dr. John. You've actually maybe even had a look at this already, but this is one of the sites that Dr. John sent through. But layout, I mean, I looked straight away. I know I've got the phone numbers there to contact. The Phone International, Phone Australia, I don't know whether you necessarily need both, only difference being +61. On the front, I think most people would know, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tanya, with the +61 and the difference between the two. But online store open 24/7, which is great. You've got your call to action store tab there. You've got your logo in the top corner. Doesn't look like that's clickable. I would assume that would be the home logo, but nothing there on that. Then we've got the pictures with the text, view products. View products looks like it goes to another page. Okay, so it goes out to the cart. Yep, joint health for dogs, joint health for horses, joint health for cats. I'd probably simplify that and drop the joint health on each. Have joint health across the top and just have cats, dogs, horses. But again, I'm just being pedantic and pointing things out. Love the product images, white space, white background. Transparent, works really well. Pricing, wow, I didn't realise so it was so expensive for horses, but that's good. You've got reviews there with 5-star rating, fantastic. What do you accept on the bottom? Not clickable, but assumedly if I go through the store, it would be. If I could just go into blogs and articles before getting Tanya's thoughts. Looks like you've got some blogs on there, feeding through, linking through. A couple of comments on those, social links as well. So you got all the core elements in there on the site. Tanya, first thoughts?
First thoughts are the website looks really nice. It's got really good colours as well. And I do love the unique selling points that John has there. Good job. Products look nice. You do have some consistency with the different sort of styles. So that green comes through and you've got video testimonials. And then you've got lots of different sort of action points as well. So there's a newsletter subscription. And then I think we had a couple of more things at the top there with the phone numbers. The store icon I really like because sometimes the little sort of cart shopping icon isn't always as easy to see. That's something for businesses to note. So this is really good. What would be great is to have the clickable phone numbers at the top there and to have them aligned as well, just so that it looks nice and neat. And you know, if someone wanted to call and have a quick chat, it gives you the chance to convert that customer and really sort of explain what it is that you're great at from a product perspective. And then just little things like making sure that the menu bar is above the images before it sort of cuts it off a little bit, so that again, we can really tell that nice story.
Nice. Okay, jot that one down. Sorry, I know this is quick, guys, but it's just yeah, hopefully this helps everyone else as well with any of the input on any of the sites that we're not seeing. So I will just give some context, but I'll get you to give your initial thoughts on this one, Tanya. But this is one of our startups. He's setting up a page at the moment, which is mostly for resources, not actually selling anything yet directly to public. So he's not driving any traffic through there, but just starting to bring in some brand elements on it. So I guess what I'm saying there is just be gentle. It's one of our startups. Of course. Yeah, initial thoughts?
I love it. It's very clean and simple, which is nice. I do like your logo as well. I had a little cheeky look at this website earlier when you popped it in. There's a chat. I think it's modern and it's really telling a story that it's not necessarily a product or service. It's more of an informative site. And, you know, I love the home, about us and contact menu bar as well. Nice and clean, to the point, and it looks great.
Nice. So I know just for feedback, so this particular page is the one that he kind of sends through to people to access documents. So these are like document links that he's got on the website. And then this URL allows them to be able to actually see, okay, that's who he is, that's what he does. Let me read the document, see if I can get involved in the trials, etc. So don't mind that. Maybe an opportunity there for some pictures just to bring it to life a little bit. But I actually love the fact that it got in there, our vision, you know, what we do. I think it's always good. Like I remind people, you know, people by people, yeah. So where you get that opportunity to actually humanize, personalize your website without it being too heavily focused on me. You know, there's a balance, but you know, any opportunity you've got there to kind of share a backstory, have an element to that, I think it works well. So thank you for sharing, and I'm assuming contact is straightforward. Drop us a note. Love to hear from you. Just quickly, your thoughts on that one, Tanya, like pre-populated fields versus just opening up email. Does it make a difference from the point of view of like SEO or anything else? It's much nicer.
Yeah, I think it's easier just to keep people on your website and to have a nice, easy form such as this. So it captures the message and then you send it across. Some people get freaked out if you get taken off the website and, you know, Outlook might pop up. Some people like it, but I think, you know, it's nice to keep everyone on your website.
Cool.
This looks great.
Okay. Do you want to share your thoughts on this one? Minddrawing.net.
Love it. So this is a nice, clean website. Obviously, it's quite creative, which is great. We can, you know, we do have that feeling straight away. You know, it's got a couple of different key points that it's focusing on. Love the COVID-19 focus being right at the front. It's very relevant. We've got a little bit about the business, Mind Drawing News, and a blog, which is great because content will be important here. And, you know, it's telling a really nice story as well. So I think it's a great website.
I'd say maybe going back to your point on the style guide, use of colors, that sort of thing. There's a lot of different colors sort of going on in the background and the bar, etc. Yeah, so maybe just to review that. I think consistency of text would be the other thing I'd probably look at. You know, just keeping the font the same all the way through. You know, picking one style for the header, one for the content, and again maybe go, you know, sort of colors that just work a little bit better together. Sorry, I know I'm sounding really critical. Reminder to everyone, it's always easier to critique than it is to create. Sitting back, none of this is you should have done this or that, but just purely, you know, looking at it in first thoughts, and also to knowing the work there. I think there's missed opportunity maybe to get some of the story across, because when I hear the story directly from Jenny, it's really compelling. I don't know whether that carries into the website necessarily. I don't know, whether it sort of gets me as excited as the work that I know that she actually does. So yeah, might be something to have a look at, but that's good. And Vicky unfortunately sent a message earlier saying she had to drop off earlier, so I'll share this with her as a recording on the feedback. But Vicky was actually one of our TEDx speakers at TEDx Casey, and she delivered her talk on the power quotient, which was fantastic. Love the fact that she's put a link in there to a TEDx Casey talk. It's always good to represent. Yeah, she's got some great information there. First thoughts, Tanya, on the site?
Site is really modern, very strong. It definitely has that female entrepreneur feel, which I love because it's very relevant to what Vicky is about. The video is great, really engaging, and she's got it embedded on the website, so I love that. You know, she has content there, but not too much, so it really keeps that flow nice and consistent. She's explained a little bit about, what her mentality and mantra is, and, you know, it kind of makes sense for what she does. I don't think it needs anything else. I think it just tells the story and explains really what the program is about as well. Looks great.
So there's a lot of content here on the homepage. I'm still scrolling down now as you're talking. What are your thoughts on that? Are you best to create separate pages? Are you, Yeah,
that's a good pickup. I would probably create some extra pages and add it to that menu bar. So, you know, this program experience section could be a page. The other sort of program she talked about earlier could be a page. And then this is a contact us page right here, probably. So absolutely, she could break that up and have it there at the top so people can click into it. I think she's got it there as well, Chris, maybe. Oh, it goes to that particular page. Oh, this is a Wix website.
So she's got anchors on the page where, So the only thing with that, if you are going to use page anchors, so what she's done is if you click on it, it takes you to that one section on the page. If you do that, though, make sure that you lock your menu, because now I've got to actually scroll back up to the top to get to anything else for navigation. So, okay, so she's got the single page with page anchors with the tabs across the top. This might be a Wix website. This is generally their style, and you know, they do some really good stuff with what templates they have for small startups, which is awesome. However, in the long run, from a Google's perspective, they actually don't love these single page websites because
it doesn't give them the chance to understand what you do. And they really do view it as a single page site, technically. Although you can scroll through, it doesn't sort of tell Google that. So my advice to Vicky would be to think about that CMS piece we spoke about earlier, because she could convert this website into WordPress and it would rank better, it would have better engagement, and from a Google perspective, it would definitely be a lot more effective. And it's really easy to do as well, because she's got all the content there.
Okay, I'll just stop that down. So just having a look, we've got some feedback from others too, which is great. So Rowana said needs a video with their story. DJ, had to nick off, but he thanked us for our time. All good. I've had a couple of private message questions come through, which we'll address through the follow-up sessions to this. And sorry, Anne-Marie, actually, we've got time to maybe open this last one.
Let's have a look at it.
With that? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll just copy link.
Oh, there we go. And Anne-Marie's got a Wix website as well, so great platform for startups when you don't know what to do and you do have a budget, because they've done some great stuff there, but certainly something to, expand on in the future, because it doesn't really tell Google what the site is about.
Okay, so if I just open it up now, you can see that okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, yep. So logo front and center, phone number, social links, home about us, services, FAQ. Yeah. So you were talking about that Wix site. You could just tell by looking at it that it's a Wix site. Yeah. It's like a standard Wix template. Yeah.
So click on the about section. If you see, that one actually has inner pages. Oh, I'll be damned. Good stuff. Maybe they've updated the way that they set up their sites, but yeah, look, they have come a long way. I like this website. It's clean. We know exactly what this business is about. Everybody needs a personal assistant in their lives. Absolutely. Anne-Marie. Great call to action. I love your social icons. Hugely important. And then you've got the different, the different pages as well, explaining what you do, which is fantastic. And you even have an FAQ section. Love it. Which you could almost turn into a blog section. I feel like that would be something I would recommend, since FAQs is getting a little bit outdated, but all of these questions you could answer through some great blogs, because you could put photos in there, you could have some videos, and then you could get some more content on your website as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a beautiful contact us page. Good job, Anne-Marie. Not bad at all.
It's actually really good. And I was about to say about the tagline, but you kind of got it there. I'd probably move that up. So either incorporate it into the image or move that tagline up a little, because here I get the personal assistant piece. What
could be cool to do, Anne-Marie, is have that tagline, because it is really good and it's quite strong, and to the point. You could move it into the image of the laptop, so it has a little bit more depth to it, and then it's kind of, a bit of a quirky way of getting it there in the banner as well.
I don't know whether you've ever used this, but it's a good cheats way as well. For anyone online, I can send this link if people are interested. I've used this heaps when you're creating vaporware or hero images. It's a website called Place It, and you can actually place your images in laptops or like mobile devices, etc. This isn't the site I was thinking of, but I'll find the link and I'll send it through. But yeah, you can do exactly that. You can actually have you can put your stuff on the screen there of what you want to see. Yeah, and then I'd say on the services piece, at the moment you've got the single page there for each with the URL. I'd probably look at doing like that Kanban style, because you've only got the two services, sort of have it on the same page. But again, just sort of sharing open feedback there. Nice. I like the white space. That's all good.
I like the white space too. Very modern.
Okay. Got it there. Oh, great question. Try the Rana font. What's your favourite font, Tanya? Just
that one. I don't know how to spell it properly, but I do like it. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me what you normally like. What's that's what I'm thinking.